Thank you all for tuning in with me. This is Self-Care Wednesdays. I appreciate you all the new listeners and all of the active listeners. I appreciate all of your genuine support for riding my wave and rocking with the Creative Lips Podcast. Yes, we are making it through this week. We are in the middle of the week just to do our self-check, just to make sure that we are straight. I know that's what I normally do within the middle of the week, just to make sure that I am together, everything is all in line. And if it's not, then I can just overlook some of the things that I need to change and reevaluate in my life. And that's what Self-Care Wednesdays is about. I like to tackle a lot of topics on Self-Care Wednesdays, from down to, checking on your inner self so you can know thyself, and also mental health. And I would like to get into that today. And this topic today I'm talking about is 5 steps on how you can love yourself. Do you want to love yourself right now? Do you love yourself? Are you loving yourself right now? Are you spending time with yourself? Well, that's what I'm going to be getting into today, the night, whatever time of the day you are listening to my Self-Care Wednesdays. All right, guys. Let's get into this episode right now. Yes. So before I like to start my episodes, I like to give a disclaimer. Yes, a little bit of a disclaimer, basically talking about that my Self-Care Wednesdays is strictly from my own opinion and my own experience. Yes, my own experience, guys. Things that I have been through, obstacles, a lot of setbacks that I've been through in my life. I had to learn and go through therapy too as well, Yes. So that I can be a better me. And so that I can continue on the journey in my life, in this life. So I just wanted to give that disclaimer out there that I am in no way, no shape, no form a licensed psychologist or a licensed therapist. Okay, guys. So, it's like I said, it's just strictly from my own opinion and my own experience, my Self-Care Wednesdays, or any time that I talk about mental health or anything that is geared towards therapy, psychology, or anything with self-help, just from my own opinion. And, you never know. My opinion and my steps and, different things that I have been through, you never know. It might help you. It might. And if it doesn't, and you can probably just share this episode with someone who can be beneficial for them. You never know. It might open up a door to someone. Yes. So now let's get into my words of encouragement. I like to give words of encouragement on just about every episode that I have here on Creative Lips Podcast. And that's something that I feel as though that we need. Some of us need it on a daily basis. I know I do. I always say that. I always need words of encouragement just so that I can make it through. I want to be able to make it through my day, my week, my month, the time. I just want to be able to make it through right now. Right now, if you are listening to this episode, only you know what situations that is faced before you. Only you know what obstacles that you are trying to get out of, that you are trying to stop, that you are trying to start, or whatever it may be. Whatever the obstacles that you are trying to overcome. Just like I said, only you know what it is. And I'm here to tell you that hang in there. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. If you would just let go and continue on having faith and believing in that situation is going to work out the way that you want it to be made out to be in your favor. In the end, guys, in the end, if you can just once again just hang in there right now, just hang in there, and you will see the light. You will see that light at the end of the tunnel. I'm telling you, you will. And that door will open for you. And that light will shine so bright. And your eyes will be open. Your heart will be open. And that love will pour all in and radiate all over you just to heal you and to make you feel whole so that you can continue on your journey in whatever you are trying to do in your life, guys. So I just wanted to just give that word of encouragement for whoever is listening to this right now, that you will get through. You will definitely get through. All right, guys. So now let's get into today's topic. Today's topic that I'm going to be talking about today, just like I said on episode number 90. Yes, this is episode number 90, guys. Oh my goodness, these episodes are flying by so fast. I'm like, before you know it, I'm 10 episodes into episode 100. Yes. Yes, guys. Yes, and just like I said, if you keep on rocking with me, yes, you will definitely know that I will be dropping some new news for all of you. And, it's going to be a surprise for all of you. So stay tuned for that. So how can you start loving yourself today? How can you learn to love yourself, in a path that you feel as though that I don't think I have time to even love myself, or I don't even know how to even love myself? For some, it's not a quick fix. It's just not. It's just not a quick fix for some. Now, if someone had to ask me if I loved myself, I am confident to say right now, yes, I do, loud and clear. I can shout it out to the heavens that I love me. Now, before all of my profession of truly loving me, I can honestly say, y'all, the real truth. I can tell y'all the real truth. The real truth is I really neglected to honor my needs. I really did. I neglected my voice. I neglected my expression. And I also neglected my feelings and my whole being. Yes, I did. I neglected all of that shit. I did. And this showed up in so many ways in my life. I can begin to tell you all. It just came from every which way. It started to affect me in my health. it started to affect me in me parenting, my parenting skills. It just started to affect me all over. And, I was so worried about what other people needed. And I forgot about me, about what I needed. And I would always be the one to always say, what do you need? Do you need anything? I can help you. And sometimes I still fall in that trap. I do, honestly. And it's nothing wrong with being, I'm a Pisces. I do wear my heart on my sleeve for the most part. But, of course, if you know Pisces, we do have that other side to us. You know what I'm saying? So try us. But however, I am that person. If anyone knows me, that I am that person. What do you need person? And of course, it was never a question that I asked to myself that, I would just always be that go-to person, And I would always allow people to dump their feelings on me in service of being that good listener. I was always that good listener. I was always that go-to person to say, call me, give me a call. Somebody always just wants to tell me whatever the tea they got or whatever's going on in their life. And it's still like that still today, but I know how to regulate it and handle it. And 9 times out of 10, when I walked away from those people that dumped all their problems and feelings and whatever else they had on me, and me being a good listener, I felt emotionally drained. I really did. I felt so emotionally drained. I felt beaten up. I just felt like, damn, I felt really worn down after that. But it wasn't until then that I took back my power. And I finally realized that, I need to take some steps in my life to really regulate all of this and finally love me. So I'm going to talk about the 5 steps today on how you can love yourself. How do you do it? And step number 1, just like I said, learning to love yourself is just, it's really just not a quick fix for some. Some people, it's really hard to do that. And we really, really have to, sit still sometimes and really evaluate what it is that the person or whatever situation is before us. Is it worth it for us to intervene? Is it worth it for us to involve ourselves in? So we really need to become familiar with our inner voice. That's number 1. We really need to have that inner voice of wisdom. You know what I'm saying? Of wisdom, guys. Of wisdom deep down inside that tells us. And sometimes we just push it down, especially if it's our loved ones. We want to extend that service to them. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's nothing wrong with that. If it's your loved ones, your children, you definitely want to lend that ear. You want to be all ears and, because they're in the situation where they're growing and maturing and you're molding them to be a better person. All other, other situations, somewhere in between college life or your child life or your teenage life and adulthood, we sometimes lose that connection with our inner selves, our inner voice. And we have to really regain it back. We have to really regain it back. So what I did was I started by thinking less and listening more to myself. I really did. Because in this case, this was an important factor, very important in my life, to where I made it a priority to really listen to myself. Overthinking can also block you from hearing your inner wisdom, your inner self. To start listening more, what I had to do is I had to take out, a journal. And I started writing and I started reflecting on the different challenging situations in my life. And then I would ask myself a question. The following question I would ask: what do I need? What do I feel about this situation? And what do I want? What do I want? What do you want? What can you do for yourself so that you can really take back and regain that inner voice? And that's something that I did. And, in that step. And number two is, this kind of ties into your inner voice and your inner wisdom. Trust your gut. Do more of what your inner gut says to you. Now, this is one story that I can honestly tell y'all, that I had a friend of mine that would only call me when she dated a new person. And, I was all for the tea, just to hear what's going on in her life, But then after a while, when I started listening to her, I was just like, it just began to be very draining, because it turned into something to where, she was happy when she would date these guys, but then it would turn into something that was wrong with me. Why these guys don't want to stick around, and then I would have to be the person to, of course, edify her, because that's my friend. And to tell her that you are worth it. You are this, you are that, and, to uplift her as a friend, and which is nothing wrong with that. But however, this was over and over and over again. No matter what information that I provided her, my service, and I gave her positive words of affirmation, even advice. But, over and over again, this person, she wouldn't listen. And we can really, really just take our time and really sort through all of the things that we can, go through this to practice and really honor our needs, our own needs. What needs come first? We really have to sit there and really trust our gut, because when we sit down and start to listen and hear, and you already know that your friend's calling around 5 o'clock, same time or whatever time, trust your gut. You don't have to be mean and just say, don't even answer the call. You don't even have to do that. But what you can do is, answer the call and be honest and let your friend know, because if it's your real friend and if they really care about you and love you, and are there for you, or whatever the case may be, then they would understand and say, hey, I can't talk to you right now. Or you can just be bluntly honest, like myself. This is how I have been lately. Look, every time I talk to you, and you tell me about your situations, you don't listen. You always go through the same pattern, or whatever the case may be. You can be bluntly and tell them in a nice, respectful way, because you have to protect your peace. You have to protect your energy. And, it's best to really go off of your gut and trust it. And number 3, yes, we can practice. This is really a good practice to do. We really need to start expressing ourselves more openly. That ties in with what I just said earlier, speaking bluntly. We really need to start expressing how we really feel to people. We don't have to be mean, just like I said, but if you want to be mean, then that's, counteracting the problem, and, it's going to turn into something else. You know what I'm saying? It depends on who you talk to. But however, I find that free expression is one of the greatest things of self-love. Honestly. Because you show that person or situation or whatever that it may be, that you love yourself, no matter what it is. Because if you give yourself permission to express what you want, you then commit to free your expression without any judgment, guys. Any judgment. So leave that fear behind. Leave that fear of, if you're expressing yourself and telling whomever, whatever the situation is and how you really feel, that, oh my God, like, oh my goodness, like, this person's not going to like me. They're going to think I'm mean. Leave that fear behind. I'm telling you. Because if you start practicing this free expression, then there's no need for you to feel with inside yourself that they need to understand it. Only you need to understand it. That you are practicing that free expression for yourself. This is the most biggest thing that you can do in your life, is to practice that free expression. Create a safe, sacred space to truly, truly honor yourself when you do this. I'm telling you, this is what it's going to turn into. That you are really, really honoring yourself. You really are, if you do this, guys. Yes. All right. And number 4, love yourself like you love others. Respect. Remember how, your parents, or you probably, I don't know if you all heard this before, treat others like you would treat yourself. Well, the same thing goes. It's the same. Love yourself like you love others. Whether if you give the amount of care and respect and dignity you give to someone or yourself, don't you deserve that kind of love? One way you can do this is by flipping the script, as I always say. Ask yourself, what would you want for your partner, your family, your friend, a loved one? When you're facing a decision, like, say, you can't see them for that day, or, you would tell, a coworker, I'm taking off work this week, or, I'm preparing for, this trip that I'm going to be going with my family or whatever. I mean, would you hope that for them, in both important and ordinary moments, what advice would you give them if you was to tell them those situations? Take these hopes and advice and flip them for yourself. Would you tell your best friend to take a mental health day, and go pamper yourself? What would you do? Or would you tell your partner to ask for, more money at work? Prepare yourself and get ready to grow into loving yourself and respecting others as well, and respecting their time and respecting how they feel. Just like you want others to respect you the same way. Yes, you can definitely do that. Make yourself grow into that space and time so that you can make the right decisions and choices if you do that. All right, guys. And last but not least, we always want to treat ourselves with a little kindness and tenderness. Because every time our inner self or inner critic comes out, be gentle with yourself. Imagine your inner voice as that young child, as a part of yourself that feels sacred and wants to be seen and wants to be heard no matter what. But when the inner self, the inner critic comes up through the judgment, like those self-blames and, things that you're struggling with in your daily life. And, you want to feel love. And with, different things that you are going through and struggling through. And you want to know that you are loved in that moment. We want to really immerse ourselves and imagine that younger version of ourselves delivering the message of the inner critic when this happens. Now, what I normally do is I normally do a lot of shadow working. I really do a lot of shadow working, meaning that I really look deep from within to really sit down and look at some of the things that I need to forgive myself about. And also knowing just simply that, I want to be reconnected with that love that's inside of me right now. In that moment when I'm feeling like I'm struggling, I really take that time. I really take that time to treat that inner person like as if I'm the parent to that person. And I am, and that's my only child. And I really talk to that inner child. And I really sit down and I start to love it. I start to forgive it. And I understand why it is so sacred. It is so sacred to really treat myself with kindness and tenderness. And I'm telling you, if you really would just sit down, guys, I'm telling you, and just do these things. I always speak about these books from Queen Afua and her son. If you guys, this is not a promotion. This is not, anything of that sort. But these books are wonderful. Queen Afua's son, Supernova Slum, has a book out for men. It's called Man Heal Thyself. And she also has a book for women, Woman Heal Thyself and Sacred Woman. And I'm telling you, if you all get a chance to read those books, definitely read those books because they are they are very, very helpful. Because they begin to spark a self-compassion, and they also help you open up to feeling that self-love. To feeling that self-love that you want in your life. What else do you all think that you can do to improve, the different things about yourself so that you can learn how to love yourself? What are some of the steps that you want to take upon yourself and do right now? All right, and to the number one tip. If there is only one lesson you could learn in this entire year, this moment right now, this second, this day, this hour, you are absolutely the most important person in your entire universe, your entire life. Your entire life is lived through your eyes on a daily basis. Your interactions with the world and those around you, your thoughts, and how you interpret events, relationships, actions, and words. You know, you might just be another person when it comes to all of the things that you are trying to understand about your life. The less you love yourself, listen to yourself, and understand yourself, the more confused, angry, and frustrating your life and reality will be. But when you begin and continue to love yourself more, the more everything you see, everything you do, and everything you interact with starts to become a little bit better in every possible way. If you would just try, create the steps in your life so that you can get more into loving you right now, guys. And, you know, I encourage you all today to do that right now. To love yourself right now. Love on yourself. You know, because just like I said, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And that is it, you know, this month. And we really need to focus on loving ourselves. You know, even if it's just a month, even after this month is over, maybe that should be one of the things that you should make a priority in your life, is to love yourself right now, today. Yes, guys, really love yourself right now. I appreciate you all for tuning in with me. Yes, I really do, guys. Yes, just like I said, this is episode number 90. And I am your host, Regina. And this is Creative Lips Podcast Self-Care Wednesdays, guys. And I encourage you all to follow me on my social media. Follow me on Instagram at Creative Lips Podcast. Yes, guys. And also leave me that 5-star rating and leave me a review, guys. Yes, leave me a review. And also follow me on Twitter at Creative Lips Pod, guys. All right, I really appreciate you all for tuning in once again. Yes, love yourself right now. Give yourself a big hug right now, guys. All right, until next time.
You are now listening to episode 90 of the Creative Lips Podcast.